Saturday baseball from Oakland, California. The first-place Texas Rangers are in town, and the Oakland A's fans filing in, hoping to see some sort of miracle bounce back. The A's are 9.5 games out. The Rangers have a chance today to be where they've never been, at 10.5 games up. We welcome you to Oakland, along with Eric Karros. I'm Josh Lewin, and for these Texas Rangers, a storybook season, I guess you'd have to say. Normally, we talk about the wild, wild west in this division. It's really not so wild right now.
Well, it really isn't. I mean, the Rangers have run away with things. And you talk about the beginning of the season, what was going to be key for the Texas Rangers? It's going to be Josh Hamilton. He was going to have to play like he did in 2008. I'll tell you what, for these last 2 months, he has been dominant, hitting at a 420, 430 clip, 14 home runs, 48 RBIs. I mean, he's really led this offense and vaulted himself into an MVP candidacy. And it's not just been offense. It's been out in the field as well, out in center field and right field, just controlling it well.
All Josh Hamilton all the time, kind of. There are some other supporting characters that we'll tell you about today. But if we're touting an MVP candidacy, we might as well roll out to break by showing you the guys. Hamilton and the Rangers against the Oakland A's when we come back on Fox. The president and now soon-to-be owner of the Texas Rangers predicted a 92-win season for his ball club. Josh Hamilton did him 3 better. He predicted 95, and with the Rangers in today, Mr. Karros at 64-45. Looks like Josh Hamilton may have the winning offer right there. The Rangers are trending towards a 95-win season, something they've only had once before.
Well, pretty bold predictions, especially with as balanced as this division looked, at least at the beginning of the season. You could have made a case for any one of the 4 clubs as far as where they would finish. at the end of the year. But right now, Texas is clicking on all cylinders.
And they built that 9.5-game lead over these Oakland A's. The starting lineup for the Rangers brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Elvis Andrews, the 21-year-old shortstop, sets it up for Michael Young, and the man we're just prepared to go on and on about today, Josh Hamilton. Vlad Guerrero, Nelson Cruz, Jorge Cantu just brought in from Florida. David Murphy's become a starter, and he has really excelled for manager Ron Washington. Kristen Guzman just brought over from the Washington Nationals. And Taylor Teagarden had a double and a homer yesterday, so Ron Washington kind of riding that hunch. We'll play him again this afternoon. And we take a look at Gio Gonzalez, the guy that has a 3.69 ERA, and that's about par for the course with these Oakland A's. Pitching has carried them all year.
Yeah, the pitching staff has really been strong for this Oakland A's ball club and really kept them afloat all year long. Gio Gonzalez, for him to be effective, he's got to get that curveball over. When he does that, then he can work the fastball, the change. Has to build off of his last start. 11 strikeouts, no walks.
The no walks, obviously, the biggest thing. And for Gio Gonzalez, as he continues to mature, Dallas Braden has certainly taken an interest in making him the best that he can be. Braden's already pitched a perfect game this season.
Catching at first base for Texas, number 24.
Whatever they're whispering to each other, it will end here
16, Dave Anderson.
with a bro hug.
Leading off for the Rangers.
This game brought to you by Budweiser, official beer of the first inning.
Andrews.
The beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, clean finish. Budweiser, it's what we do. Mid-60s and sunshine here in Oakland. Back in Arlington today, the temperature is 103. And the first pitch from Gio Gonzalez is called strike one by Dan Bellino, the 31-year-old umpire.
113.
A Chicago guy. Wanted to say hello to his wife Katie back home in Crystal Lake, Illinois today. And Joe Wester, crew chief, he's at second. Joe West wearing the microphone for us today as well, so maybe get some gems out of Joe before the day is done. A lot of foul territory here in Oakland, and Derek Barton is going to make a fine racing catch to leave a surprised and disappointed Elvis Andrews shaking his head up there.
Well, one of the tough things in this ballpark is to put up offensive numbers, and it's because of the expansive foul territory. Derek Barton doing a great job of staying with it, hustling over, and avoiding the bullpen mound. Makes a great running catch.
A little Tim Brown over-the-shoulder action here. All-time franchise leader in hits, Michael Young for the Rangers. The Rangers have been involved in some tense games the last few weeks. He's been asked, as Michael Young, is it kind of a playoff atmosphere? Michael Young has said straight-faced, I don't know. Never been there. Swatted at. Captured at shortstop by Pennington. Michael Young, the second out of the inning. Josh Hamilton will come up next, and the sprint player first for Josh Hamilton of these Rangers. He is first in the majors in batting average and hits and total bases. And as you suggested, EK, it has been the bounce-back season the Rangers were expecting, and maybe plus one.
Well, they were absolutely hoping. What he's done, he's been healthy the entire time so far. He's had some nicks and bruises here, had a cortisone shot the other day, but for the most part, he's been able to play a majority of the games. I mean, this guy's just as strong as there is in the game. When you stand up next to him, you realize the size, the speed, the power.
Well, he's going to send that one high and deep to left field. It goes right up near the wall. Caught by Matt Watson. Gonzalez, a 7-pitch inning, is through it. Rich Harden's on the mound when we come back. Oakland Athletics brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Coco Crisp gets it going right off the top. Then it's Martin and Suzuki, Cust and Kuzmanov. Mark Ellis, Rajay Davis, Matt Watson, and Cliff Pennington against a guy who used to be an Oakland Athletic and was pretty good at it, too, back in the day. Rich Harden has not had a great first season as a Texas Ranger.
Well, been struggling a bit, but he's had some injuries, but he could really be key for this club this last month and a half and into the postseason.
How'd you like to scout him out?
Well, I'll tell you, he needs to pitch efficiently. He has a tendency to be erratic. Pitch count elevates against this Oakland A club. They may take a lot of pitches. Right place at the right time means his last start here against the A's earlier in the year, no walks, dominated, and he just felt like, hey, I'm back in familiar surroundings. He hopes that happens today.
Yeah, it's the only start he's had this year with no walks. 2 hits allowed, 9 strikeouts, and he said there's absolutely something to that just seeing familiar faces just kind of put him in the right frame of mind. Seeing Bruce, the security guard, seeing the clubhouse guys that he knows, and just stepping onto this field, going up on that mound, he found a happy place.
Well, maybe if he throws well, he sees if he can hire Bruce, the security guard, and take him with him the rest of the way.
Elvis Andrus at short just cannot complete the play. He was able to smother it, but a very speedy man who's reached on an infield hit. Coco Crisp is on. Murphy, Hamilton, and Cruz for Ron Washington's team. And in the infield, Michael Young, Elvis Andrus, Guzman, and Cancer. That right side of the infield, recently imported. Third time this year, the Taylor Teagarden will catch Rich Harden. And Andrus has dazzled in his first couple of years in the big leagues, just couldn't get rid of it.
Well, the only reason I think he doesn't get rid of it, he tries to hurry as well because of the left-handed hitting and speedy Coco Crisp. A slower runner, he may take his time and be able to complete that play.
Derek Barton had a triple in the first inning yesterday. That against Cliff Lee, and then Cliff Lee kind of clamped down. In fact, Cliff Lee was simply amazing yesterday again. He's now got 9 walks all year. He's got 126 strikeouts. Nobody's ever had anything like what Cliff Lee's got right now, Eric. That's a 14-to-1 ratio of strikeouts to walks. The record is 11-to-1.
And I think the next best in Major League Baseball, Halladay, he's somewhere around 7. Just shows you how great a season he's having when it comes to that ratio.
He's lapped the field, and the Rangers kind of threatening to do the same thing. They're looking like Secretariat in the 73 Belmont. 31 lengths, I think that was. And the Rangers were the one team in baseball with anything even close to what you can say is a comfortable lead. Everything else is neck and neck.
Well, if you ask Ron Washington, though, it won't be comfortable until that final game in October when the regular season ends. There's still a lot of baseball left. And, you know, historically, you've heard what has gone on in Texas as far as playing in August, the heat. They've got a tough schedule. They've got a tough road schedule. So by no means is this thing over. I'd much rather be Texas than any other team in the division, but still a ways to go.
In the AL East, the Yankees and Rays are now tied for first. Central is separated by a game and a half. Rangers up 9.5. You see that Cincinnati score and that Toronto score. That really is, that's not CFL football. That is actually 17-10. A bunch more home runs for the Blue Jays today. Now the walk to Barton to bring up Kurt Suzuki, and already Rich Harden has walked one more batter than he walked when he was on this mound back in May.
Batting third, the catcher, number 8, Kurt Suzuki.
Bob Guerin manages the A's and the sprint player first for the Athletics. They ranked first in the majors in day games, and Bob Guerin was actually asked about that before this game started, and he didn't really shrug that off as some kind of statistical anomaly. He said we got some young players. They tend to bounce back, you would think, a little bit better after a night game. He looks at the Rangers as a team that had to go across the bridge to San Francisco after the game last night. And Suzuki takes the strike. You wait for an hour after the game, right, and get on the bus. 40-minute ride back. Getting settled in your hotel room. He says, my young guys were, if they're doing it right, they're back home and they're asleep by then. I think the other thing that Guerin might have tapped into as well to possibly explain why they're so good in the day, not so much at night. Home games anyway, EK, and you know this because you've played here. The ball jumps during the day, does not at all at night. And the A's don't exactly have power hitters, guys that are going to hit home runs no matter what.
Yeah, you know, I thinking about it, I'd go with the whole idea of the team staying in San Francisco, the visiting team, where you get home after a night game and, you know, unwind a little bit. And the bus is going to leave relatively early the next day because you've got a 40-minute trip. You've got to allow for whatever issues you may have coming over the bridge, and not a lot of turnaround time.
We got old school Moneyball A's right here. They've taken 9 straight pitches from Rich Harden. 10. And that one is a called third strike.
Well, Kurt Suzuki not liking this pitch, thought it was down a little bit.
In the fourth position, designated hitter.
It's close, it's about at the knees, but you see Teagarden pulls it up with his glove. Anytime the catcher moves his glove to try and get a favorable call, he's basically telling the umpire that wasn't a strike, but I'm going to try to deceive you. And you saw Teagarden pull the glove up.
Well, let's see if this extended stay at Camp Take a Pitch will continue. That's, again, 11 now in a row that the A's have just kind of sneered at. And that is, in part, why they wrote the book and are now making a movie about the Oakland A's of about 8 or 9 years ago. A lot of taking of pitches. Take and rake is what they used to say around here.
Yeah, but it's different now because they don't have the high on base percentage. You know, they've got Derek Barton, who would fit into those teams, the older teams, you know, the early 2000s, but they don't have the power. This is the power guy, Jack Cust. I mean, you know, he's a guy that has 8 home runs, but they're built with the pitching, but they don't really have the offense. And that's something that Billy Beane's going to have to address. There's some answers in the minor leagues, but you've got to score runs, and they just haven't been able to do that on a consistent basis this year.
Cust is one guy who's capable of taking the ball out. He had a couple of solo home runs against the White Sox on Fox Saturday Baseball back in July. But in the 10 games he's played since then, he doesn't have an extra base hit. He's been striking out a ton.
But, I say that, you know, he's got a few home runs, and I know he's not the team leader. But when you talk about pure power guys, this is really the only guy on this Oakland A ball club that is a power threat. I mean, some other guys will run into the ball. Suzuki's got 12, but the offense, for lack of a better phrase, is basically anemic.
And they have stayed afloat with pitching, no doubt about it. They lead the league in ERA. But this is what Cust does. He wears a very appropriate number, that 3 and 2. It just seems like the count is always exactly that when he's up there.
Well, he's going to make the pitcher work. He's going to see pitches. But, you know, only 3 players on this A's ball club with over 24 walks. Only 3. And only 1 player with over a 420 slugging.
Well, that's not very Moneyball.
That is, well, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And you know, that's where they are deficient. That's why they've won 70-some-odd games the last 3 years. You know, the pitching is there, and when you have the pitching, you can make that jump from being a team that doesn't compete to a team that can be competitive in a relatively short time. Like I said, Billy Beane can make some additions this winter, and they can be thrust right into the top of this division. I mean, you could argue they're at the top, but they're 9.5 back.
On 3 and 2, Harden brings it, and the A's a much different approach here against Harden. We talked about when when Harden pitched on this mound back in May, he was very aggressive. The A's became very aggressive. There were a lot of first and second pitch swings, but
Number 5, Kevin Coon.
this afternoon so far, Oakland very content to take. And Harden's already at 22 pitches. He's only got one out.
Well, now this is what Oakland A baseball used to look like, but, you know, batting with the bases loaded, it was Giambi or Tejada or Frank Thomas or, you know, not to take anything away from Kevin Kuzminoff, but, you know, he is not any of those guys.
Well, and probably the best representation, we've already seen Barton this inning, and he walked, he's on. But, you know, that's your first baseman. That's traditionally a power position. And whether it was Giambi here or McGuire before that or even a guy like John Jaha after that, it's weird to see an A's first baseman with 5 home runs.
But you remember Scott Hatteberg, and he was very effective, but they had other guys that could complement him and pick up the power. And that's the problem that, you know, Derek Barton, excellent job here at first base and putting up great numbers. But again, where are you going to find that power? Got to have it elsewhere.
Well, Kuzminoff with a chance to supply it here, but he's down 0-2. Nice job by Teagarden to block that one. Kuzminoff, the very first start for Rich Harden way back in spring training. Harden's debut was a Texas Ranger. Kuzminoff took him deep, really deep, for a 3-run home run. A lot more on the line today. As Mike Maddox, the pitching coach, watches.
Well, we talked about one of the keys for Rich Harden, that was to pitch efficiently. And right now, hardly doing any of that. A lot of pitches all over the plate, going deep into counts.
'27th pitch of the inning is high. No place to put Kuzminoff. The start that Harden just made, his first start coming off the DL. He missed 6 weeks with, of all things, a strained glute. He was not this way. He averaged 11 pitches per inning. And the prevailing wisdom was, all right, now he's got it. But this is a wobble back to where he was before the strained glute. He has walked in a run. Maddox is out to talk to him. Harden is second to highest in the American League in terms of walks per 9 innings, and he's at 3 walks in this particular inning. It all started with the infield hit.
Well, Mike Maddox is out there just trying to break up what's going on right now, give Rich Harden a bit of a breather. You know, Rich Harden's the type of guy that can put himself in this position and, you know, 1 or 2 pitches later, whether it's inducing a double play or then striking out a few guys and get right back out of the inning, he has that kind of stuff.
Cliff Lee is not the kind of guy who's going to throw 29 pitches and have only 8 of them offered at. That's what's happened to Rich Harden here. The A's just keep taking. Mark Ellis, the batter. In fact, I'm looking at my scorebook from last night, Eric, and of the first 30 pitches anyway that Cliff Lee threw, the A's swung at 22 of them. So this is exactly the other way today.
Well, there's a different plan. I mean, it doesn't matter what type of hitter you are. You have to look at who you're facing. And against a Cliff Lee, the A's came out. They swung the bats early. They were aggressive. They scored in the first inning. Rich Harden, the plan is different today.
There's a swing, and Ellis guides it to right. Nelson Cruz is there. Tagging from second and from third are the Oakland A's, and they lead 2-0. Rajay Davis will come up next. And a quick reminder, next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, the Cubs and the Cardinals, bitter division rivals. Or you got the NL West leading Padres against those red-hot Giants. Also the Orioles and the Rays on the docket. Fox Saturday Baseball presented by Sprint next week. 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on Fox. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. Now, it has been a cumbersome first inning here for Mr. Harden. First and third, 2 out. Rajay Davis will do what else but take. And it's 1-0. Michael Young in a bit at third. Davis has been known to drop down a 2-out bunt.
You watch this ball off the bat of Rajay Davis. Right shoulder of Teagarden. That'll leave a mark right there. The throwing shoulder.
Chopped foul by Davis. And by the way, your eyes are not playing tricks on you. These are black uniforms for the Oakland A's today.
They sneak into the Raiders locker room, I guess.
That one sailed away foul into the crowd. Yeah, they'll be playing football here before too long. Preseason action just a week away.
I tell you, the black unis, the green unis, the throwback unis. Well, if you're the equipment man, Steve Vucinich down in the Oakland A's clubhouse, man, the guy's having to work this year.
Of course, back when Charlie Finley owned the team, it was the Kelly green, the Fort Knox gold. And he called the white uniforms wedding gown white. Because white, just didn't tell enough of the story. So they had all kinds of combinations back then. "38th pitch of the inning is down and outside. And again, Rich Harden, last start that he made, that was against the Angels. He was into the 4th inning with 38 pitches. He is not yet out of the first today. Blasted foul back this way.
One of the things, if you're the Texas Rangers, why this start is important. And you say, well, you got a 9.5 game lead. Oh, okay, you don't win this. But you're watching Rich Harden, and you're trying to figure out, is this going to be a guy that we can count on if we get to the postseason?
Just can't put away Davis. Still 2-2. 2-0 Oakland here in the first.
Harden is the type of guy, he has the stuff. He's pitched in big games. Outside of Cliff Lee, who are going to be those other two that you can use if you do get into October?
Needed that. He strikes out Rajay Davis on his 41st pitch of the inning. It's 2-0 Athletics. presented by Sprint, the Now Network. Brought to you by the 2010 Taurus from Ford, Drive One, and by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Well, the A's really didn't hit the ball out of the infield that much in the first inning, but they've got a 2-0 lead today in the East Bay. Josh Lewin, Eric Karros, glad to be with you, and Rich Harden had a tough time of it, obviously, in the bottom of the first. Took 41 pitches to get through it. Gio Gonzalez needed only 7 in the top of the first.
Well, very important for Gonzalez to go out there, go after these Texas hitters, get the A's back in the dugout. More importantly, Harden back on the mound.
Before he can figure it out, right?
Well, I mean, the guy just threw over 40 pitches. You know, he's probably kicking himself mentally, going, "Geez, what a..." Get him right back out there. Don't let him regroup, as you mentioned.
Gonzalez to Guerrero. And that's fouled back. Could be looking at the comeback player of the year right there.
Yeah, great free agent signing by John Daniels, GM of the Rangers. Signing Guerrero to a 1-year deal.
Twisted up and down on strike slide here, though. First out of the second inning.
Well, and you don't see that very often from Vladimir Guerrero. That's a strikeout. Only his 42nd strikeout of the season.
Nelson Cruz.
That breaking ball down and in the dirt. It's a great location because you can't get to it as a hitter. If you do hit it, you probably beat that into the ground at best.
Big year for Nelson Cruz. Would have been bigger, but he's missed 37 games with a couple different stints on the DL.
You saw that 60 RBI, 71 games.
It's really the same ratio that Vladimir Guerrero has. If you kind of prorate it out, they'd be neck and neck right now to lead the team in runs batted in. Tapper to short. Pennington loads up and fires. 2 down. Our 4 keys to the game. Eric Karros will take you through them.
Well, for Texas, they've been scoring runs as of late. Last 3 games, 22 runs. The previous 3, only 5. They've got to stay aggressive. They go first to third better than anybody in the major leagues. Oakland, they've got to score runs. They haven't been scoring. They're about 2 runs a game. Every once in a while, the offense gets going. And patience. We saw a lot of that in the first inning against Rich Harden. Make Harden throw strikes. He didn't. The A's were able to exploit it. And we had that up before the game started. I didn't put patience after the fact.
Well, the fact that you put score up there, I'm very impressed with that.
Did you like that? That's the key to the game.
Yeah, thoughtful analysis by you. You're earning your money.
Well, they weren't scoring early on. You were part of that road trip. 5 runs into this Texas offense in 3 games. I mean, it doesn't matter how good your pitching is.
Now, the Rangers now have scored 22 runs in their last 3, but you're right. Before that, they had 5 in 3 games. There's Cantu off the end of the bat and into right field, a base hit. Let's show you the A's defensively. We haven't done that yet. Out there in the outfield, Watson, Crisp, and Davis. Kuzminoff solid at third. Pennington, Ellis, and Barton. Rest of the way around the horn. Kurt Suzuki's got a 4-year contract now to go forward as the pretty much everyday catcher for the Oakland A's. And he prides himself in that. David Murphy, hard hit. Base hit, and to center field it goes. Guzman will come up next. Cantu takes a turn, goes to third, and that's exactly what you just mentioned, and that is not traditional Texas Ranger baseball. The first to third on a single. They do lead the majors in that here in 2010. Ron Washington beams about that particular statistic.
Well, and Cantu just coming over to this Texas ball club. Already acclimated himself, understands. Look at first to third is part of the philosophy. And it's one thing going first to third and then just being out of control and just saying, I'm going first to third just to say I went. You have to do it within reason. And Texas has done it as well as anybody this year.
Vladimir Guerrero, the possible exception to that one, tends to run until he's out sometimes. But you're right, there's a dozen other guys who have done it almost flawlessly all year.
And you watch Cantu, he's watching, he's sized it up. If you can hit the base before the fielder picks the ball up, generally, unless you're as slow as I was, you keep going.
It's an honest assessment right there. Off speed, and Guzman is down 0-2. But it's weird when you talk about the Texas Rangers, Eric. For years and years, it was all about the thumpers, the guys that would just, kind of clog up the bases, hit the 3-run homers, and that's it. Now it's steals and sacrifices and first to third.
Well, and I think a lot of the credit has to go to Ron Washington. I mean, that's the way he learned baseball coming up in the Dodger organization. It's the way they played here in Oakland a few years ago as far as being fundamental, fielding the ball. And that's the culture he's established in Texas.
Guzman disposed of, and despite a couple of 2-out singles, the Rangers turned away. By Budweiser with full flavor and a crisp, clean finish. It's what we do. Another beautiful day in Northern California. It's the Rangers and the A's on Fox today. The A's are trying to hang in there in the AL West. It has been the Rangers' season in just about every way. The A's are 9.5 back. They're 54-54, exactly at 500 for the 18th time this year. They've had kind of a checkerboard pattern for a week and a half now, Eric, of a win and a loss, a win and a loss. It's tough to make up ground. Matt Watson's going to pop one up, and obviously an important inning for Rich Harden after he struggled through it in the first. 41 pitches to get through. Looking for a quick second here with the 8-9-1 part of the order.
Well, and Matt Watson helping him out. That he takes the first pitch, it's ball one, and then swings at a pitch that you can't really square up. And as you mentioned, this is really the inning where you can put it to Rich Harden. Make him throw some more pitches. Make him prove that he can throw strikes. Don't help him out.
I'm looking at just recent history going off of this year here, Eric, as Pennington takes high. This is the third time that Harden's had, believe it or not, a 40-plus pitch first inning. Now, one time he came back with a 10-pitch inning the next time. In the other game, it was 29 more in the second inning. So you're right. I think it's a measure right now to see which way he goes. 2-1 to Pennington now. Not a long ball threat. .280 at bats since his last home run, but I bring that up because Rich Harden has been giving him up quite a bit.
See Pennington showing all his power in the month of April. 3 home runs, hasn't hit one since.
Taken up too high. Walking the number 9 guy would not be a measure of Harden settling back in, I guess.
No.
Came back and got him, Elvis Andrus, and what ends up being a close play because Pennington always busted out of that box. Coco Crisp will come up next. And folks, tomorrow afternoon, the championship game of Major League Baseball's reviving baseball in the Inner Cities World Series. The RBI program, a great program. Check your local listings. It'll be on the MLB Network. Harden to Crisp. And he drives that one right center field. That ball's going to jump. That ball is going to go. Home run for Coco Crisp. And we have just talked about it. Harden has been giving up a ton of homers lately. That's 9 of them in his last 25 innings of work.
Well, and Coco Crisp going to the plate, realizing that Harden is just trying to get ahead of hitters, jumps on a high fastball, squares it up and puts it over the fence, right over the 388 mark.
Just the 4th this year for Crisp, who missed 70 games on the DL. That's in there for a strike to Barton. Well, the A's, who scored only once last night, already have 3 on the board today. Even the changeups are up right now from Harden. The fastballs have been up pretty much all afternoon, but there was a changeup up near the shoulders.
Well, he can't even locate. I mean, even when he does throw a strike, it's not necessarily where he's trying to throw the ball over the plate.
Scott Feldman getting loose already. Yeah, he's not where he needs to be. He has walked Barton twice. Mike Maddox dispatched again. And I think you hit on it, Eric, last inning. The Rangers know they've got Cliff Lee for sures in the postseason. I mean, they will bank on him, ride him all the way. But after that, who's got it?
You know, and that'll be the interesting question, and it's something that the Rangers hope to answer in this next 2-month period. All you need 2, ideally 3 guys to get hot as far as the pitchers, and you can run through the postseason. But if it's just one, man, good luck. See Joe West coming in there and taking the ball from Rich Harden and throwing it out. You know, that's just something right now. Rich Harden's already fighting himself, and now he's got Joe West telling him the ball's not right, or you're going to your mouth, or
just something else to think
just
about.
More,
right?
Well, it's not to think about. It's just more to agitate right now. That's not thinking. That's agitating.
Well, you got a pitching coach who's probably a little bit agitated right now, too. It's disappointing because Harden, again, it just seemed to all click for him in that first start off the DL. Suzuki hoisting one into left center. The A's strand one, score one, thanks to Coco Crisp. It is 3-0, and we're back to Oakland after a word from your local Fox station. presented by Sprint, the Now Network. Here in Oakland, getting it going in the third, and Taylor Teagarden had a double and a home run yesterday, takes a strike. Both of his home runs now against these Oakland A's. Question is, does he talk to himself in the third person about that? And I ask that because Ricky Henderson is here today with a pretty good seat. The sport's all-time leading base stealer. And in fact, that he never played a game after age 29, Eric, he would have retired in the top 5.
An amazing athlete. I remember one time he was leading off first when he was with the San Diego Padres. I was playing first base, and a lot of guys had talked to me over at first, and I heard him talking. I thought he was talking to me. I said, what did you say? And then a little louder, he said, Ricky got to go, Ricky got to go. He was talking to himself. He said, Ricky got to go, Ricky got to go.
That ball over to third, and Taylor Teagarden got to go. And he was tagged out by Derek Barton.
Well, this is a nice job by Derek Barton, the first baseman, coming off the bag, not trying to hold it, and then making the tag and giving with the runner. If you try to hold the bag, you put yourself in harm's position. He comes off the bag, and like I said, when he tags him, he gives with the runner. If he tries to just be solid there, that's how you hurt an elbow or shoulder.
Did you learn that one the hard way, playing first base all that time, or did you know that coming right through the Dodgers organization?
You learn that from experience, but that's one of the funny things I always hear about. Well, let's just put the guy over at first base, let him play a few games over there. And those are the types of situations that you can hurt yourself. Those can be career enders. And I remember Cliff Floyd broke it. It was a compound fracture. It's the New York Mets playing first base. But it's not an easy position to play over the course of a season. 1 or 2 games you might get away with it because you won't be exposed, but a lot of little tricks of the trade.
The Rangers have experimented this year with Joaquin Arias at first base, and you're right. I mean, just kind of stashing a guy there, you hold your breath a little bit. It's weird to think that the Rangers are where they are with their first baseman this year hitting a combined 197. Usually that's a position that carries you offensively, at least to some degree. There's a strike to Andrews.
But you usually don't have, an outfielder like Josh Hamilton doing what he's doing, and a guy like Cruz and Guerrero, and Kinsler's been in there, Michael Young. I mean, there's so many other spots where the Rangers have been productive.
Well, sure, when you're surrounded, Andrews is going to plop that one down foul. And not to go all Dodgers all day long, just in your honor, but the 88 Dodgers had a platoon of Mickey Hatcher and Franklin Stubbs. They combined to hit around 220, had 8 home runs, but you had Kirk Gibson on that team, you had Mike Marshall on that team, and all that pitching, and it was fine.
Absolutely.
On the ground to short. Boy, Gonzalez doing a nice job locating. So he ran the count full. Andrews is the second out of the inning. Michael Young to the plate. Nobody wants that playoff trip more than Michael Young. He's done all this for the Texas Rangers. He's played his entire big league career with the Texas Rangers. But he has yet to sniff the postseason. He wants to take his name off that list entirely.
Well, and you saw that list, guys like Aubrey Huff and Sweeney just got traded to the Phillies, and Randy Wynn. I mean, the guy that looks like he's not going to be in the postseason, Vernon Wells. The rest of the guys all have a shot.
Michael Young knows he is on field anyway, the face of the franchise. I think every Ranger fan just kind of looks to Michael as the captain, the guy that shall lead them if they are to be led. And it's ironic, the other day when that auction was going on, when Nolan Ryan's group won the bidding, the winning bid was submitted to the minute when Michael Young hit the put-away grand slam in Seattle to win that game for the Rangers. Nolan Ryan, the face of the franchise off the field, of course.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Nolan Ryan being involved with the group and over the past few years has brought credibility to this Ranger organization. Ron Washington out on the field leading this ball club as I mentioned earlier, changed the culture, changed the way that the Rangers play baseball. Mike Maddox, the pitching coach, has done wonders. There's Wash right there in the final year of his 4-year deal.
Talking about getting him renewed as soon as the season is over, whenever that is.
And you see the improvement each and every year.
Mark Ellis takes it on one hop.
Good spring training.
Ron Washington's team has some work to do today. 3-0 Oakland. For a $200,000 Pepsi Refresh grant. Vote for your team's idea at pepsirefresh.mlb.com. Rich Harden, take 3. Bottom of the 3rd underway, and right away he hits Jack Cust. So the command is just not there. Gio Gonzalez, though, has had his command, no doubt about that. And we talked to Bob Guerin moments ago about what he's seen from his pitcher this afternoon.
Showing strikes, hasn't walked anybody. He did go to a 3-0 count on Andrus and came back and got him. That was good to see. It looks like his curveball is sharp. His fastball's got some velocity, a little bit of movement, and so far so good.
Bobby, the offense, not an explosive offense, but it looks like you've gone up there with a plan. Talk a little bit about how you've had to manage this group this year.
Well, we're trying to do whatever we can to create runs. We're stealing a lot of bases. We're very successful at it. Our guys can hit and run a little bit. We've tried a little of everything, and the guys are really buying into it. They're having a good time with it, and anything we can to get some runs on the board. We got a great young staff, and just feel like any cushion we can give them is going to help them.
Thank you, Skipper. Good luck today.
All right.
Kevin Kuzminoff, the batter, and on a check swing, no swing. Action begins again in the Ranger bullpen. Scott Feldman is up. I think Bob Guerin's got a real good handle on it, Eric. Obviously, this is not a team built to mash. Their leading home run guy has a dozen. It's their catcher. But you find inventive ways to make things happen. Kuzminoff floats it out to left. Out number 1. You know, it helps when you've got the best ERA in the entire American League.
Well, and that's the thing. The pitching is there, and it's going to keep them involved in games. But what makes Bob Garrett's job difficult is, there isn't really anybody that he's going to be able to count on. He can't wait for that one swing of the bat that can change the complexion of the game. He's going to have to constantly create situations, and it's not easy to do over a 162-game season.
Kurt Suzuki's a nice player, no doubt about it, but he is 87th in the league in home runs, and that's the guy that leads them in terms of power.
Well, they have nice players. There's no question about it, but you have guys batting in positions that if they were on another team, a playoff team, you're not hitting third or fourth. You're hitting sixth or seventh. And I think that's what differentiates them from a lot of other ball clubs.
And it's very stark when it's a game against the Texas Rangers, who pretty much 1 through 7 anyway have that ability that you're kind of alluding to. I mean, Michael Young, Josh Hamilton, Guerrero, Cruz, Cantu, Kinsler when he's healthy, David Murphy's coming on.
Well, and it impacts the pitching. It impacts the pitchers.
That one's tight to Ellis, and just not a good day for Rich Harden. I'm talking about how it impacts the pitchers. Can you pick up on that?
Yeah, when you're talking about the pitchers, they've got to be so fine for the Oakland A's. I mean, you can't make a mistake because offensively your team isn't going to put a number of runs up on the board. And, at least with Texas, you have a little more leeway. But Rich Harden, I don't think he's getting any more leeway.
No, the Rangers have the kind of offense where you're right. I mean, if you make a mistake or two, okay, we can all come back from that, but not so much with the Athletics. You make a mistake or two, and that's probably good night. Early night or day, as it is for Rich Harden, out of there in the 3rd inning, down by 3. Success for Rich Harden. He's back in Oakland. He's always pitched well on this mound, but it just didn't happen today. 5 walks. And he leaves a couple men on base here for Scott Feldman now. It's already 3-0 Oakland. Feldman's a Bay Area native, Burlingame. And for some reason has never pitched well here across the Bay in Oakland. Davis jabs a bunt. The count 0-1. We'll go back to Rich Harden a bit today. I guess really just right from the the first couple batters, it just didn't seem quite right.
No command of any of his pitches. I mean, and usually what happens, a pitcher may not have two of his pitches, but can go to one pitch, but he couldn't even go to his fastball or anything. It was erratic.
Well, and he's got the misfortune of, at least for now, following Cliff Lee in the rotation. Lee is a strike-throwing robot. And in this one today, it was 33 balls against 32 strikes for Harden.
It didn't matter who he would follow, though. It was just a bad outing. I mean, you can't phrase it any other way.
Chopper to third. Michael Young has got it to Guzman, and that's it. A 5-4 fielder's choice. Davis runs too well for that to go as a double play. All right, so going forward now, the Rangers obviously are going to have a little decision to make. I mean, they've already kind of made it with Scott Feldman. He was the opening day starter, 17-game winner from last year. Gave him a big contract right before opening day. But the performance wasn't there, and now he's a long man out of the bullpen.
Yeah, well, Harden gets another start. I mean, I don't think there's any question. Just coming off the disabled list, he had a nice start in his previous outing. You're not going to weigh everything just on what happened today. But he's going to have to show something because, again, for all the wonderful things the Rangers have done this year, the object is to get to the postseason, go deep into the postseason. And it's not going to happen if Cliff Lee is your sole guy.
Davis was going on that and then kind of reversed direction. Feldman stepping off. But Davis loves to run. Got 32 steals already. Take you back to just before that last one. And Cantu trying to hold him on. Davis is going this time. Got a great jump. Teagarden's throw, no way. Feldman's not a guy that holds runners very well. And Davis, I think, is a guy who sees things like that, knows things like that, and just decides, I'm taking this base.
Well, Davis is a combination of speed and intelligence when it comes to stealing bases. A lot of guys, they'll just try to outrun the ball. Other guys will steal bases, pick spots, but he's a true base stealer.
Guzman gobbles it up. 3-0 our score, and Josh Hamilton will be leading it off for the Texas Rangers when we come back on Fox. Sprint sponsored by Michelin, a better way forward. By Dairy Queen. And by DirecTV. Watch your favorite team wherever you live, only on DirecTV. Take the Bart to the ball game. It's the Rangers and the A's today. Gio Gonzalez against the MVP candidate Josh Hamilton. Last year, a down year, obviously, for Josh Hamilton. He was 130th in Major League Baseball in slugging percentage. This year, he is second. Last year, Alberto Callaspo, Yunel Escobar had higher slugging percentages than Josh Hamilton did.
Well, they had good years. Come on.
I'm not trying to take anything away from Callaspo, but
well, the thing that's amazed me is just what he's done this year. It's almost been a tale of two seasons in the last 2 months.
Gained some confidence around the middle of May. He had a brutal road trip to Toronto. He struck out 8 out of 9 at bats. Ron Washington gave him a day off. Clint Hurdle started working with him to readjust some things. And boy, everything just clicked. He's going to roll out here. Another guy for whom it's been clicking this year, coming up now, Vladimir Guerrero. Last year with the Angels, never really healthy. Say the same about Josh Hamilton last year, never really healthy. But Vladimir this season, check out the difference in runs batted in. There's still a lot of season left. He's already got 86.
Well, and historically always hit well in Texas. Getting to play 81 home games there now.
Yeah, there's a comfort factor there for sure. A career .390 hitter in Arlington coming into this year, so that's a good place to settle in. If Guerrero is comeback player of the year, then Hamilton is MVP. You've got also Neftali Feliz, the young closer, who's eligible to be rookie of the year. It's kind of a 1988 Oakland A's thing that you're talking about, where they had Weiss as the rookie of the year, Canseco the MVP, Storm Davis the comeback player of the year. And Tony La Russa was manager of the year.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I think Ron Washington absolutely deserves strong consideration. Manager of the year.
This team could be 20 games over 500 if they rally and take this one this afternoon. And you talked about the year-by-year progress that the Rangers have made on his watch as they mull how to reward Ron Washington, whether it's with one more year or many more years. The arrow's been pointing up.
Would you call a reward one more year? I read that the other day that there was some talk about, well, Ron Washington will be back in 11. I don't know if that's really a reward. I mean, for what he's done, the way the club has improved.
Well,
you want to lock up more than one more year.
No, they definitely love the manager, and they want to win for him, no doubt. Guerrero grounding out. And, of course, Ron Washington's season began with a cloud of controversy with the admission back in spring training about what happened with the drug use last year. And it's like that never even happened now. I mean, Wash has been a very stand-up, steady individual. And, you know, you played when he was a coach here with the Oakland A's. I mean, everybody loves the guy. The Rangers gave him essentially a mulligan. And it's like it's never been spoken of since then.
Well, I think that makes some sense, but then let's expand more than a one-year deal, or it goes beyond 2011. So obviously that must be in their minds, or it must still be considered. Because, like I said, I don't really understand the 1 year. Oh well, give them to 2011. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Outside the Cruz, 3-0.
I mean, I think he is the right guy for this spot. The way the players have responded to him, like I said, the way he's changed the culture. And Nolan Ryan gets a lot of credit, but there's one guy that's in that dugout with him every day with the players.
Well, and it's been a kind of a fascinating season of readjustments for this team. Feliz wasn't even supposed to be the closer. We're talking about him as Rookie of the Year. He was supposed to be the setup guy. Julio Borbon was supposed to be the leadoff man, and he wiped out. Started batting ninth instead, and now doesn't play that much at all. Scott Feldman was the opening day starter, was supposed to be the ace of the staff. He's now mopping up in the bullpen. And here they are, 19 games over 500. Popped foul by Nelson Cruz, another guy who has certainly contributed. And I think fair to point out a guy that anybody could have had coming out of spring training a couple of years ago. He had to pass through waivers to go down to AAA. 29 other teams could have grabbed Nelson Cruz. They did not. All right, that last foul ball, why was everybody so excited about this? That's why.
Man, it's an expensive foul ball right there.
That guy just dropped him off a little something extra. A walk for Nelson Cruz. And time for a DirecTV game break. The only way to watch every MLB game in HD, call 1-800-DirecTV. After a Victor Martinez home run, Curtis Granderson a triple off the wall. The Red Sox and the Yankees are now 2-2 in the fourth. And the Boston Red Sox are still in the hunt. They've had to make, well, you talk about a team having to make adjustments.
Man, I think that injury bug just flew over there, jumped in that clubhouse, and has been with that ball club for a while. Dustin Pedroia still a couple weeks away. Euclid gone for the year. Beckett was on the DL. He's back. I mean, they have just had more than their share of injuries, but still right in the thick of things.
The interesting news from our Ken Rosenthal, if you heard it in the pregame show, signing Carlos Delgado to a minor league deal. Cruz is going in there with a stolen base.
Jimmy Carter was talking about
well, Cruz with 13 stolen bases coming in today gets a good jump. Big man hustles down in scoring position now. But that's part of what the Rangers do, part of what Ron Washington has implemented here. Don't just sit around, wait for somebody to hit the ball out of the park. Go first to third, steal bases, make things happen.
Well, it's funny, one of the very first managers for these Texas Rangers was the now Hall of Famer Whitey Herzog. And he took that philosophy to St. Louis with him eventually, that kind of jab the beehive. Let's make everybody uncomfortable philosophy, and it served the mid-'80s Cardinals so very well. Whitey Herzog following Ted Williams and preceding Billy Martin in the Rangers lineage of managers. Fouled, but not into any beer. Where's that iced tea? What is that?
Whatever it is or was, it was spilled. That's what it was.
Whatever it is, that guy's wearing it. They have a very different kind of splash hit across the bay.
Yeah.
Cantu works the count. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And for the first time, Gonzalez having to labor a little bit. You got Murphy on deck. Lost him. And the tying man suddenly coming up for the Rangers.
Well, Gonzalez was breezing along. Hadn't walked a hitter until Nelson Cruz, remember in his last start, had not walked anybody. 2 outs, 3-0 lead. Now he finds himself in trouble after walking 2 hitters. Kurt Young out to the mound. You know, this is where you've got to just try to break things up, just like Mike Maddox went out to the mound earlier in the game when Rich Harden seemed to have got himself in a rut. Again, Gonzalez has thrown a nice ball game up to this point, but the last 2 hitters seem to have lost it. Go out there, you remind him, look, you've got the 3-0 lead. Let your defense help you.
He's got to face David Murphy. And Murphy has tickled the fancy of manager Ron Washington with what he's done since the All-Star break. Murphy's essentially become an everyday player. And it really wasn't supposed to be that way, but Washington riding a hot bat. Murphy had a 3-run homer off Doug Fister in Seattle the other night and followed it up with a game-breaking 2-run shot off Felix Hernandez the next night.
Well, and he's wrestled away the playing time from Bourbon.
Just enough contact to hang around. Still 2 strikes with 2 on, 2 out. It's been a 28-pitch inning for Gio Gonzalez. He needed only 40 to breeze through the first 3. This passes for run support, by the way, for Gio Gonzalez. You go back to last year, his last 9 losses, either no runs or 1 run scored for him. And Eric, in his career, when the A's get him 3 runs, believe it or not, he is 14-1. That's all he needs usually is 3. 3-0 our score to the bottom of the 4th. This poor guy. Back to Oakland in a moment. Shutting down the high-powered Texas Rangers so far. It's 3-0 into the bottom of the 4th. 9-1-2 in the A's batting order for manager Bob Guerin. It starts with Cliff Pennington, native Texan. Scott Feldman had to take over for Rich Harden last inning. Down the line, that is fair. Cantu couldn't get it, and this thing is just going to roll on away, letting Pennington go all the way to 3rd. The foul territory, all of it here in Oakland, a major issue for the Texas Rangers. Once it got past Cantu, that thing just kept going and going and going.
Well, once it deflects off Cantu's glove, he's the only one that really can hustle after it and go get it. Guzman getting over there late, but because of the foul territory and because there's so much of it, the ball just continues to go further and further away. Pennington easily gets into third.
Boy, it looks so harmless off the bat, but now he's standing at third base. The infield in, and a great shot for Coco Crisp, who's already had a real nice day. Two for two. One of the hits went about 120 feet. The other one went 390. Infield hit and a home run. And again, with the infield in here, all Crisp really has to do, just kind of muscle one beyond the quartet of Young, Andrews, Guzman, and Cantu.
Look for something up in the zone. Don't try to get greedy. Just get a ball to the outfield.
That is to the outfield, and Josh Hamilton running up on it. But even Josh Hamilton can't do a thing about this. It is 4-0. Rich Harden already out of the game. Major issues for him today. We talked to Ron Washington just a couple minutes ago and asked what was the biggest issue of all.
Command. He just couldn't control the baseball today, you know. Changeup wasn't staying in the zone, wasn't able to spot his fastball. It was just command today.
Josh Hamilton having an MVP type year. Talk a little bit about what he's meant to you guys this year.
Well, he's meant more than just as much as anyone else on the team. You know, it takes 25 guys, but he certainly is coming into his own. He's just playing baseball in all phases. He's playing defense. He's running the bases. He's taking whatever the pitchers give him out there in the batter's box. You know, to me, he's having an MVP year, and we certainly hope that it continues throughout the year.
Ron, congrats on an unbelievable year for all you guys. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
You got it.
All right, fellas.
One of those days for his pitchers, Harden and Feldman both. Again, they were supposed to be the 1-2 punch for the Rangers in the rotation. As it turns out, it's now two lefties. We talked earlier about who, besides Cliff Lee, can kind of take the ball and run with it in the postseason. I'd suggest to you, Eric, that C.J. Wilson might be that guy right behind him, a guy that is essentially enrolled in Cliff Lee University, learning how to pitch the way Cliff has pitched. And C.J. was really good before that.
Right, but not a lot of experience as a starter. And I think that's the question mark, you know, that revolves around a lot of these guys outside of Cliff Lee.
In terms of pure playoff experience, there's some of it out in the bullpen. Darren Oliver, for example, has been there with the Angels. Obviously, Cliff Lee, who won 4 October games last year for the Philadelphia Phillies, including their 2 World Series wins. That all helps. But you're right, a lot of guys that haven't been there and done it yet. Barton takes what is called a third strike. Inside corner.
Well, Barton, a very patient hitter. You watch this pitch from Feldman. Misses the target. Thinks it's up a little bit, but Dan Bellino's saying it's over the plate. Usually when a catcher has to move his glove that much, won't get the benefit of the call, but Dan Bellino's saying, hey, that's over the plate.
Now Suzuki 0 for 2. And just to finish a point on C.J. Wilson, the 2 lefties that the Rangers now have in that rotation. Wilson wasn't supposed to be in the rotation at all. He kind of talked his way into auditioning for that this spring. It's been suggested for a long time that if the Rangers are going to win, they got to cultivate some left-hand starting pitching, because in that ballpark, well, lefties can take aim. Lee and Wilson can neutralize that.
But again, you know what you're going to get from them. There's a resume. Wilson, you just don't know.
We'll talk more about that whole dynamic when we come back. It is a 4-0 lead for the A's. We're coming back to Oakland after a word from your local Fox station. Sprint, the Now Network. Oakland, California for the Rangers and the A's today. The Rangers, with a win, would be 10.5 up on the A's. But right now it is Oakland 4 and the Rangers nothing, as Guzman is going to send one into left field. Oh, and a tricky little twist out there. Guzman thought about going to second. Reverses and goes back to first. Had he gone to second base, Eric, there would have been a new bright white base out there to step on. Fox Sounds of the Game take you to second base umpire Joe West an inning ago.
Now batting, number 2, Taylor Teagarden.
Check that bag. Check that bag, see if it's loose. Kick it. No. From the side. No, I'm serious. Huh? It's always like that? I'm going to check between ends, yeah.
Well, Joe West with 33 years in the major leagues, if he wants a new base out there, by golly, he gets one. And in between innings, they did. They swapped him out. Teagarden in the air to right. Rajai Davis has got it. So, Eric, we were talking a little bit last inning as you see the changing of the bases. The ability for one pitcher to learn from another. And at the beginning of the broadcast, talked about Gonzalez trying to learn a few tricks here and there from Dallas Braden. And on the subject of C.J. Wilson, a lot to learn, obviously, from Cliff Lee. If you're going to follow one guy around, make one guy your big brother, that's probably the right guy.
Well, there's no question. I mean, you try to learn how a guy goes about his business, how he prepares. But just because it works for one guy doesn't mean it's going to work for another guy. What you do is you take from any player, things, and you say, you know what? Let me give that a shot. See if it works for me. I think he can learn watching Cliff Lee, how he approaches hitters, but don't try to become Cliff Lee.
Don't steal his identity necessarily, but take what you like and apply it, I guess. Were there guys that you followed around when you were first coming up with the Dodgers? I mean, I know coaches all the time will tell you things, give you little nuggets of wisdom, but guys closer to your own age? Or
Well, I'd watch guys and, how they would approach things. I mean, Tim Wallach, for me, was the guy, the way he prepared for a baseball game. But again, you have to find out what works for you. You can watch other guys and see what allows them to be successful, but just because it works for one guy doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for another.
Elvis Andrus takes a walk, and a couple men on here as the Rangers try to chip back in it. One thing about C.J. Wilson we should mention, too, he is probably the leading tweeter in the American League West. If you're a Twitter person, you probably know that Straight Edge Racer is the handle that CJ goes by, and there's a recent tweet that we can roll out there for you, another one to follow. CJ Wilson does have a real affinity for cars. Michael Young, the batter. Now we'll take down and in. Here is tweet number 2 from CJ Wilson, and it's food related. And also, obviously, he's watched the movie Old School. He can see blue, and he's glorious. One of his Twitter buddies, by the way, is the A's young lefty, Brett Anderson. We'll show you some Brett Anderson tweets, too, if time permits. That is all the rage,
You've been up here tweeting today.
I'm among the Twitterati. That one down and in, 2-1 to Michael Young. All right, so what does Brett Anderson 49 have to say? Well, can't really argue with that. Although crazy is relative.
Who's relative? Your relative?
A not so distant relative. Young with a wave and a miss. But when all goes wrong, apparently you just fire up a David Spade movie and everything's fine. You can follow Fox Sports, by the way, on Twitter and Facebook and MySpace. Towards third, Kuzminoff on the bag. Completes a double play. Very nicely done. Gonzalez still has the shutout. It is 4-0 now. Bottom of the 5th coming up. By Sprint, the Now Network in Oakland, California, where if you are Ricky Henderson, you can pretty much go where you want to go. Just wander right on into the dugout, say hello to a potential manager of the year. Could Felix Jose, for example, or Geronimo Baroa just stroll in there during the game? And
Frankie Menachino, maybe? Bring him back then.
Well, it's always neat just to see Ricky Henderson anywhere, no doubt. He's watching, as you are today, a 4-0 game. The Oakland A's on top of the Texas Rangers. The A's trying to hang in what passes for a race right now in the AL West. The A's are 9.5 back, and Gary Pettis, quite the base stealer in his day. And chatting with Ricky Henderson. Would it surprise you if we learned that those glasses were made out of solid gold?
I thought you were going to ask me if I was going to be surprised if I was going to see Ricky in the on-deck circle. Any closer, he's going to be in the game.
Bob Shirley swears that Ricky Henderson asked him once how long a bus ride it was from the Dominican Republic to Miami. There is nothing not to love about Ricky Henderson. There is ball 4. Jack Cust is on. Folks, the NFL back on Fox. 2 preseason specials beginning Thursday, August 19th. Tom Brady, you've heard of him, right? And the Patriots taking on the Falcons. And then on August 20th, the Eagles begin life without Donovan McNabb. They'll take on Ocho Cinco, T.O., and the Bengals. Both those games start at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific in high def. Only on Fox. Well, you hear that music and you start getting ready. Kevin Kuzmanoff, the batter, big NFL guy himself. He's been known to tailgate at the San Diego Chargers games. A slow roller to short. It goes 6-4-3, the double play. And as we take you towards Week 1 coverage, September 12th on Fox. Here's a look at the early games. There's a look at the late games.
Number 14.
Opening up yet another great season of NFL football, where you like to see it, right here on Fox. Mark Ellis will take a strike. And we should note that fantasy football returns on Fox this year as well. And FoxSports.com will take you through. New draft rooms, greater customization, faster live scoring, and this is big for Eric Harrow, still 100% free.
Oh, yeah.
Now, FoxSports.com/fantasy. A fly ball towards center. Hamilton is there, and that's the quickest inning that the Rangers have had so far. It stays 4-0 Athletics. Capital by Warner Brothers Pictures The Town, in theaters everywhere September 17th. And by Chevrolet. Every model is backed by a 100,000-mile, 5-year powertrain limited warranty. A sun-splashed Northern California. Gorgeous day for baseball today. Josh Hamilton trying to start up the Rangers. They have not been able to break through against Gio Gonzalez today. And Gio Gonzalez, not for nothing, the last 14 innings he has pitched in this stadium against the Rangers. No runs, 7 hits. Kind of has their number. Josh Hamilton towards the line. It is foul.
Well, you talk about him having their number. Gonzalez has been great at home during the day. 5-1, 2.40 ERA in day games. Couple that with the fact that he pitches well at home. He's had great stuff today.
He really has. Guy brought in from the White Sox in the Nick Swisher deal. And Hamilton unable to connect 1 and 2. One thing Gonzalez has done really well, and this is pretty much all year, is not let that leadoff man get on. Hamilton, though, is going to give it a try. He's going to try to hit all 4 bases with this one. Not quite. Coco Crisp having a real nice day, battling the glare of the sunshine and taking one away from Josh Hamilton. Coco Crisp is on our Verizon game summary that we'll show you right now, down at the bottom. Driven in a couple runs, scored a couple runs. And up at the top there, Rich Harden. A very difficult outing today, but Gio Gonzalez, mostly with ground ball outs, A 4-0 lead.
Well, I think Harden really set the tone for the Rangers today, obviously not in a good way. You know, it's one thing if you're out on the mound and you're giving up a number of base hits. It's another thing, though, if you're walking, guys. Just kind of takes the energy out of the ballpark, takes the energy away from your team. As Ron Washington mentioned, he just did not have it today.
Anytime it's more balls and strikes, it's, I mean, a real quick, easy way to determine if the
That's
guy
not
is
too good.
No,
Not too good.
not called hitting your spots when you're doing that. Rip and a miss, and Guerrero, as great of a year as it's been for him, things have been slowing down considerably.
Well, the thing is, you know, you knew he wasn't going to be able to maintain that pace that he had set early on this season. You know, you would hope, though, that he would continue to play well, be productive, and, you know, his numbers have really dropped off. You wonder, is it the age? Is it, you know, starting to warm up? Starting to warm up, just being hot in Texas.
Wait a minute, it's hot in Texas?
That's what I heard.
Base hit, Guerrero. Rolling one with 2 strikes on him, on into left field. Pitch by pitch will take you through with Big Bad Vlad.
Well, he's trying to go in, not let Guerrero extend his arms, and he sets him up. He goes away, comes back in. He can't catch up to it. Goes away, so this one probably back in. This one off the dirt just about.
It's a classic Vlad Guerrero swing right there.
I've seen him hit balls that have bounced in the dirt, get base hits.
It's really a neat story, I think, as Cruz takes outside. When Guerrero's been asked how that all got started, why is he able to hit that pitch that no one other than maybe Manny Sanguillen ever could have before? And he talks about growing up where he grew up in the Dominican, and not exactly a lot of new equipment, baseball equipment to deal with, no toys really. But the neighborhood kids found an old license plate. They put the license plate on the ground, and they made up a game where if you let the ball hit the license plate, you're out. Now, license plate is, what, just a couple millimeters thick, I would guess. So Vladimir Guerrero, at a very young age, figured out, all right, here's how I protect this ball right down here on my shoes. And you're right, year in, year out, as a big leaguer now, he's getting hard base hits with that.
Well, and it just goes to show, too, his ability to put the bat on the ball. This is a guy that is always hit for power, driven in runs, yet you look and, you know, his strikeouts to that bat ratio is relatively low. I mentioned 41 strikeouts today.
Well, for a guy who swings as violently as he swings, and his strike zone is nose to his toes, it's amazing that he only has, what'd you say, 40 whatever strikeouts?
41 strikeouts. Just, you watch where the contact made. I mean, that ball's hitting the license plate right there.
Infield, the double play depth. And there is an opportunity to turn one. 6, 4, 3. They did it. The stretch by Barton. Another double play to support Gio Gonzalez, and it stays 4-0 Athletics. Rajay Davis leads it off for the A's, bottom 6. Scott Feldman on since the 3rd inning after a tough start for Rich Harden today. Well, the Rangers actually out-hitting the A's right now, but trailing by 4. Sounded like a splintered bat right there. Davis kind of rolls his eyes thinking, oh, man, I like that bat. Now it's gone.
Come out, grab a new one. You break a bat, if it goes down, getting a base hit, not so bad. Nothing worse, though, than getting jammed. Actually, the worst is when you make an out. At least a foul ball, you still got another hack.
How about foul ball, break your bat, and twist your ankle? That sounded like another splintered bat, but that one was the base hit.
Yeah, that'll go down. Yeah, the twist the ankle part, I don't think that goes well.
Just asking. Time for a direct TV game break. We'll take you back to Yankee Stadium. Robinson Cano will unlock a 2-2 game, and then Jorge Posada would follow to pump it up a little more. 4-2, the Yankees lead now, trying to drop the Red Sox back to 6 games out. The only way to watch every MLB game in HD, it's DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Tampa Bay, a 17-11 loser today. James Shields allowing 6 home runs.
That'll do well for the pitching numbers on that staff.
Matt Watson, the batter, pitching out with Davis. Again, having happy feet over there, but he was not going. Heard Chris Myers in the pregame show report that Jose Bautista had another home run today, too. Who knew that guy would be leading the majors in home runs? He's got 34 now.
A lot of people thought he'd be traded at the deadline.
Cantu took a swipe at it at first. It got right over his glove down into the corner. Davis thunders around. He's going to score. Stopping at second is Watson. 5-0 Oakland. Boy, that's a couple of rifled baseballs now from these Oakland A's that have just been a whisker away from being caught by Cantu, but he did not catch them. One goes for a triple, the other for a double.
This ball smoked. Cantu coming off the bag, unable to get the glove up on time, and you see the hooking action it has. Davis having aspirations of scoring all the way. Round 30 stumbles a bit, but able to recover and score easily.
Gabe Gross will pinch run now, stepping in there for Watson. Well, still nobody out, and Cliff Pennington to the plate. He's the guy that hit the triple. Now he's looking to bunt.
Well, the score and where we are in the game doesn't bode well for the Texas Rangers. Oakland A's, when leading after 6 innings, been dominant this year. Only lost once.
Feldman's got to come down to grab that bunt. Pennington moves the pinch runner. Gross now at third, only one out. And folks, you can pick a stat, pick a player, build your own baseball hot streak. If you correctly pick 10 straight, you get a Fox Sports baseball cap. Hundreds of hats have been given away so far this year. Get your streak started today. Win yourself a cap or some cash. There's what the cap looks like. You all know what cash looks like, but there's the Fox Sports cap. FoxSports.com/fantasy. Infield in for the Rangers. Coco Crisp, another run-producing opportunity for him.
Nice job by Teagard to keep that ball in front.
Crisp has the lone homer today. There have also been 6 walks for Oakland. Been hit by a pitch, a couple of sac flies, a sac bunt. That one ripped into right field. Looking like the second sac fly today for Coco Crisp. Cruz with a heck of a throw. And Gross had to hustle his way on home.
Well, this looks like a routine sacrifice fly, one of those where you just get the ball in, cruise on in from third base, but What a strong throw from right field. Nelson Cruz letting it all go.
First baseman, number 10.
This darn thing is close.
Derek Barton.
A hop eats up Teagard. But Bros doing a good job of hustling all the way.
Well, we are in the House of Hustle, EK. That's what it says
right.
on the banners outside when you come in. Strike one to Barton, who was yet to put the ball in play today. 2 walks and a strikeout. It's tough in baseball to call any game in August a must-have game. And we're not going to go there and do exactly that, but obviously it's a nice time for the A's to have an afternoon like this, where they're pitching well, they're hitting well, and just kind of reminding the Rangers that this thing's not over.
Well, the must-have game for the A's is tomorrow. I mean, assuming they win today, finish this off. But tomorrow becomes a very important game. They win, and you leave a little doubt in the Rangers' mind. They can get to the starting pitching, then there's some more questions there.
Well, they've got a guy going tomorrow who's 11-4, represented them in the All-Star game, Trevor Cahill, with an ERA of 2.7.
Well, and the Rangers, their schedule, they've got the Red Sox coming up, the Yankees.
Barton sending one towards Murphy. And that will end things here in the 6th. 2 more for the Oakland A's. They lead by a half dozen. We're back to Oakland after a word from your local Fox station. Presented by Sprint, the Now Network. Josh Lewin and Eric Karros with you today as the A's have taken a 6-0 lead on into the 7th. Gio Gonzalez, very, very solid today. Keeping the Rangers from getting the leadoff man on. Here's Rajai Davis moving to left. Gabe Gross stays in the game. He's in right. Going to take you back a full 21 innings now for Gio Gonzalez here, EK. The last 21 innings have started out with one time the leadoff man getting on. It's just so much tougher to build a big inning.
Right, you can't get anything going. Gonzalez has attacked the hitters, and that time only today Guzman gets on in the 5th, but then put away with a double play. I think that's what's been impressive for me today, is he's been in trouble a few times, but whether it's a double play or pitching himself out of the inning, he's been able to make the pitches when he's needed to.
He faced the Rangers in Arlington 10 days ago and again was solid. 6 innings of 1 run at baseball, but he had the misfortune of being matched up against Cliff Lee. Outside to Cantu, 3-2.
But this is why the A's, they won't go away, because they have solid starting pitching. It'll keep them in ball games. Bailey, the closer, should be back soon.
Boy, he just tied him up right there on 3-2. Pop to Barton, and again, the leadoff man is kept off base. See, just for men, keep your edge spotlight. Just as Gio Gonzalez gives the A's the edge, you too can keep your edge with Just for Men, mustache and beard. Yeah, all the ground ball outs that you mentioned, turning double plays.
You know, I think the other thing, too, Gonzalez just, there haven't been a lot of balls hit hard against him. There haven't been a lot squared up. And Josh Hamilton has hit 2 fly balls that drifted toward the wall. But it's not as if there have been hard line drives. He's just kept the Texas hitters off balance.
He's been passed around a little bit in his brief career. I mean, he's a top-flight prospect, but he's been traded 3 times. I mentioned the Nick Swisher deal was one of them. Once it was a Gavin Floyd deal, getting to Chicago in the first place. And this is kind of a Gavin Floyd-like performance today. Floyd's been unbelievable the last couple of months. Another ground ball. And you're right, Eric. Nothing squared up against him today. 2 down.
Well, Josh, and you mentioned, that he's moved around a bit. But it's always been for guys that are established, or the guys that have a lot of potential. I think it's more of a function of, teams wanting Gonzalez.
Right.
Because they see what he can do and what he is doing now.
Well, it's like saying Cliff Lee suited up for four different teams in a year, a calendar year. And
just a bad guy. He's just getting them all around.
Nope, it's just he's highly coveted, that's all. Guzman behind 0-1. He's only struck out 2. But he has kept a very high-octane offense off the scoreboard.
Yeah, I can't, you talk about Cliff Lee being on the 4 teams. I can't remember a guy that, a star player, a great guy in the clubhouse, to have that much variety in just the short period.
Yeah, it's not like the Dave Kingman plan where everybody passed around Dave Kingman because it was like, all right, that's enough of Dave Kingman.
Enough of that guy. But the thing is, Cliff Lee, he deserves better. And after this winter, I'm sure he will have better.
Rajay Davis locks it up, robbing Guzman, and everything's going well for these Oakland A's today. They lead at the stretch, 6-0. color, live forward. By Amway Global, where positivity powers our people, products, and businesses. And by Verizon Wireless, introducing the Droid X, the next generation of does. The Oakland A's lead at 6-0. Gio Gonzalez, 113 pitches. Only once in his career has he done even more than that. This is his 47th career start. Hi there. With accompanying banjo music. Did you hear that? Suzuki is out. Yes, you're on national television. Very cool.
Now batting, designated hitter, number 32, Jeff Cuss.
Yeah,
did they just get married? Is that a just married, or I'm trying to figure out. I haven't seen the wedding dress with the green belt.
No, that's why I was kind of hesitating on that too. But they definitely like each other. I'll give you that. There's a strike to Cust. I'm hearing the banjo music again. Are you?
I'm hearing it.
Cust. No banjo hitter he. He's going to bounce out to second base. Well, Scott Feldman bringing some order to things here in the 7th inning. We mentioned earlier, if you are part of any of this, you are welcome to follow Fox Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace. You can get exclusive photos, behind-the-scenes looks at pregame and game prep for today's Red Sox-Yankees game. It's being updated as we go. Facebook.com/Fox Sports, Twitter.com/MLB on Fox, or MySpace.com/Fox Sports. On 1-0 to Kuzminov. Make it 2-0.
You know, the A's they're not going away. And they're going to be, have to be recognized in the last 2 months of the season. Pitching staff will keep them involved. It'll be interesting, whether or not they make any noise the rest of this way. They go into next year with basically this group of guys and the payroll under $40 million. Give Billy Beane a lot of flexibility. He goes out and signs somebody offensively, puts them right in the thick of things.
Well, the pitching they definitely have. And, of course, they had that when they really got good for the first time in a long time 10 years ago. Feldman is able to take care of Kuzminov. The A's still leading comfortably today. It is 6-0 at the end of 7th. for you. That's the banjo music I have to assume we were hearing last inning.
I'm digging that cape. How about that cape?
Well, if this game were in Venice, Italy today, be a guy with a violin coming by, this is what we get here. A 6-0 lead for the Oakland A's, and Jerry Blevins takes over on the mound. Gio Gonzalez, 113 pitches today. I mentioned that's the second highest pitch total he's had in the big leagues, and now Blevins to pitch the 8th.
See Blevins, he can get it up there pretty good.
0-2 on Teagarden. Oh, and before we talk up Blevins, just to go back to Gonzalez for a second, Eric, you mentioned it kind of coming on the air that the Rangers had scored 22 runs their last 3 games, kind of finding their stride offensively again. Teagarden booming one to center field. Back to the wall. Coco Crisp almost on the highlight reel, but couldn't get it. And Taylor Teagarden does it to the A's again. And the A's have to hope that Coco Crisp is okay. Bang that hip into the wall. Taylor Teagarden is 1 for 30 against everybody else in the majors. But he is now 4 for 10 against the A's with 3 home runs.
Well, he gets the extension, drives the ball out to center. Coco Crisp, a great effort off of his glove.
Now batting, number 1.
Gets up high, but just not enough. Look at the effort there. You see, you watch the glove. He extends the glove by letting it slide to his fingertips. Look at the palm of his hand. You can see a good part of the palm almost grabs his glove with his thumb. A great effort.
Well, the Rangers get on the board. Gio Gonzalez shutting the Rangers down on 4 hits through 7. And here's the first run for Texas.
Shoot, does that put Teagarden in the lineup tomorrow? That's another home run.
It's a good question. Benji Molina still looking to play in the Bay Area again. Of course, he was with the Giants and joined the Rangers about 5 weeks ago. And Molina originally was going to be starting today, but then Teagarden had the home run in the double yesterday. Ron Washington said, all right, we're going to ride this guy again. And that's actually, I think, a really good point. I mean, Benji Molina probably is going to be the 6 days out of 7 catcher, or 5 out of 7 the rest of the way, but
just not going to start yet, right? Start that 6 out of 7 maybe on Monday.
And if nothing else, Teagarden is going to make it at least something to think about. Matt Trainor's about to come off the DL, and he's supposed to be the backup catcher. And back to Coco Crisp. He's showing everybody where it hit and that he's okay. Andrews taken up and in. On the ground, second base, and Blevins will get his first out. Well, these Rangers trying to get to where they've never been. They only have one playoff win ever. That is the win of one game, not even a series. 49 years of the franchise if you include their time spent as the Washington Senators. What is it about Texas? Both the Rangers and the Astros have yet to win a World Series. At least the Astros have been to a World Series. And it's appropriate that we talk about that, I guess, Eric, with Michael Young up there at the plate right now. He is the guy that more than anybody is recognized as the Ranger. A guy that's been there for each of the last 9 years trying to build this thing forward. And he wasn't here for the 1999 season, of course, the last time the Rangers made the playoffs, but he's certainly boned up on it. He's researched it, and he knows that it was a very early exit, and they were swept with an average of 4 hits per game against the New York Yankees in that 99 series.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch, again, assuming Texas is in the postseason, what Michael Young does. I mean, does he get caught up in everything, or is he the Michael Young that we've seen over the last 10 years, where just go out, play like a star player? It would be very easy to get caught up emotionally. Before you know it, you don't produce and the playoffs are over.
He's performed on a big stage before in the All-Star game. He's won a couple of All-Star games for the AL. As for the Rangers getting into the postseason, first time it ever happened was 1996. The late, great Johnny Oates in charge. Juan Gonzalez was huge. And it looked like the Rangers were going to get this thing done. They won the first game of that series. John Burkett finishes it up, and Pudge Rodriguez will come out and talk to him. We didn't let it run all the way through, but what you would have seen was Pudge Rodriguez taking off the mask and saying to John Burkett, "That's one." Meaning, all right, we got one down. Now we just got to get a couple more. And they still haven't won another playoff game since then.
Yeah, amazing with the talent that the Rangers have had over the years.
2 strikes now to Josh Hamilton. And Burkett's got the only win ever in the playoffs for the Rangers. There you see Pudge. That's one. But that's where it has stayed ever since that October night in 1996. So a tough day for Hamilton. A rarity of late, to be sure. Rangers on the board, but the A's in command. It is 6-1. Maximum Pepsi Taste by Ink, the new business card from Chase. Make your mark with Ink. And by new Gillette Odor Shield Antiperspirant. Help eliminate odor. Don't just cover it up. Well, the A's trying to get back to within 8.5 of these Rangers. They lead 6-1 today on Fox. Josh Lewin, Eric Karros with you. We'll hear from Ken Rosenthal in just a little bit. Right now, Alexei Ogando taking over on the mound for the Rangers. And as he deals to Mark Ellis, what a story this guy is, Eric. He was with these Oakland A's way back in 02 through 04. And he was an outfielder. And the Rangers taking him in the Rule 5 draft with the idea to make him into a pitcher, and that all seemed to be going well. But then he was caught up in a visa controversy. He was not allowed out of the Dominican Republic for 5 years. He kept on pitching for the Rangers Dominican Summer League teams down there, but as a guy who was fast becoming 24, 25, 26, pitching to kids who were 16 and 17 years old. So finally he was able to get out of the Dominican, join the Rangers in spring training this March. Now he's got a chance to pitch against the A's on national TV today. Pretty cool.
Man, and I always heard, when they have the visa problems, it's just getting to spring training a few weeks late. I never heard the 5-year.
He and Omar Beltre, the two guys that had to certainly bide their time, to put it mildly. But Ogando has come up and essentially replaced Chris Ray as the 7th and 8th inning guy. Chris Ray was peddled to San Francisco for Benji Molina. And boy, those Giants have been quite a story, huh? 22-6 in their last 28.
Well, the pitching and Buster Posey, what he's done offensively and behind the plate. Aubrey Huff, Torres, Pat Burrell.
In foul ground, Guzman, a basket catch. Oh, talking about the Rangers making some moves, bringing in Benji Molina. And for more on that, we're going to bring in Ken Rosenthal.
Josh, Eric, some rival executives were upset that the Rangers added about $5 million in payroll at the deadline, even though they were in bankruptcy. MLB officials, though, say that the Rangers operated within their budget and that every cent advanced to them by baseball will be repaid with interest. In a sense, the Rangers operated no differently than a team that gets revenue-sharing money and then signs a free agent. Only their revenues are up, and they're paying the money back.
Thank you, Ken. And yeah, it's been an interesting last several weeks, no doubt. The Rangers in bankruptcy to go into that auction process in the first place. And Nolan Ryan's group ended up coming away with the team. There's a base hit for Davis off the end of the bat, on into left field. And, we've talked already in this game, Eric, about the possibility of a manager of the year and a rookie of the year, an MVP, a comeback player of the year. But John Daniels, the Rangers GM, pulling all of that off in bankruptcy, bringing in Benji Molina, Cliff Lee, etc. That kind of sounds like executive of the year.
Well, he's had one heck of a year, no question about it. Let's not forget the signing of Vladimir Guerrero, which arguably could have been his most important move. Just what he's done over the course of the last few years, putting together this team. Andrews at short, Feliz coming over from the Braves.
That'll be his signature trade forever if you're Mark Teixeira for what really was about a 12-month stay in Atlanta. You get your shortstop, who's already an all-star at the age of 21. Your closer is going to be, looks like Rookie of the Year. And Matt Harrison. And they got, Jared Saltalamacchio was the 4th guy in that deal. He's no longer with the organization, but he had the walk-off RBI opening day. Gabe Gross punching one in left field. Got ahead 2-0. And obviously the A's, with Billy Beane in charge, and it's been a long time since it has not been Billy Beane in charge. You talk about a creative mind. It's a guy that every year finds a way to keep the fields getting plowed, even though the horses have to keep getting changed out on them.
Well, they have struggled as of late. I mean, the reality is the last 3 years they've been 74, 75, in that range win teams. And, the thing about it, they're heading in the right direction. They've got the nucleus as far as the young pitching staff. If you can keep those guys together, maybe you get back to the Hudson, Mulder, Zito days.
I mean, it's starting to look like, and that's a lot of pressure to put on the Brett Andersons and Trevor Cahills of the world, but, I mean, they've got that kind of dynamic working right now.
Well, they really do. And the object is you add some offense and you make a run for 2 or 3 years, and then you retool.
And because they're in the small market, that's what Billy Beane knows. It's just kind of that simple law of economics. Barry Zito is a great example. Once they hit that free agency year, it's just time to go. Runners are going. Teagarden throwing, but it's a double steal for the Oakland A's. Up 6-1 here in the 8th inning. They stay aggressive.
Well, the A's continuing to apply pressure, pulling off the double steal. Again, 6-1 ball game. You're up 5 runs, but remember, Andrew Bailey, the closer for the A's, on the disabled list. Michael Wirtz has been the guy that 3 saves and 3 save opportunities. So understandable you're still trying to score runs. May not like it if you're the Texas Rangers, but you can understand it.
Infield's got to come in. The count 2-1 to Pennington, who's a pretty good bunter. With the infield in, I don't think he's going to try anything, but yeah, Davis creeping down the line at third. Towards center. On comes Hamilton. He's got it. And he's going to whip it in there to Teagarden. Davis wanted to come down, but he's read the scouting report on Josh Hamilton.
Yeah, no chance there. Josh Hamilton, one of the strongest arms in the game. You couple that with the fact that he's running in, catches it on the move.
Center fielder, number 4, Coco Chris.
Could have been the 4th sac fly of the game for the A's, but not quite deep enough. Here's Coco Crisp, who's got 2 of the sac flies and a home run. What's a sac fly feel like? Is it different when you hit one just enough to get the run home as opposed to crushing one to the warning track?
A sac fly you'll take any day of the week because you just feel like, hey, look, I got to run in. It's not an at-bat. Because otherwise it's just a fly-out, unproductive out. Love to come up with that guy on third base. How about calling a sac fly? What does that feel like, Josh?
Feels really mediocre, to be honest with you. There's a run in, but, you know.
Yeah, it's a run, though.
When you know there's going to be a play at the plate, I think as a fan anyway, that's when you get excited about a sac fly. 3 balls, no strikes. Well, sac flies, sac bunts, walks, the coin of the realm today for Bob Guerin's team.
Well, you know, we had it when he was talking about, you know, his offense. Talking about how they have to manufacture runs, steal, hit, and run.
Oh, and he's right. When your leading home run hitter has 12, you're playing in a ballpark that doesn't exactly reward you for a big swing. You have to find other ways to get it done. Ogando's 3-1. In there for a strike. Squirting outside, another walk collected for the Athletics today. Mike Maddox will head on out, the esteemed pitching coach for the Rangers, to talk to Ogando. And Derek Barton will bat. Barton, you mentioned earlier, kind of cast in that Scott Hatteberg kind of mode. The first baseman that when they wrote the book Moneyball, actually Michael Lewis wrote the book. It's not like the A's sanctioned, you know, but they are filming the Moneyball movie here at this ballpark. They've been doing that all this week. Brad Pitt is going to play Billy Bean. I think Billy's got to be happy with that casting.
Yeah, that's good for the ego, isn't it? Brad Pitt playing it.
Philip Seymour Hoffman to play Art Howe.
How about former big league shortstop Royce Clayton?
Who's he playing? Tejada, right?
Tejada, yeah.
Bases loaded, 2 down. The A's just trying to break this thing open. As we ponder who would play Eric Karros had he been here in 2002. There's a strike from Ogando. Remember, Brad Pitt is already playing Billy Bean, so yeah.
I can't even go with you on that. I don't even have a response.
I got about 6 from the truck, but well, Barton today, a couple of walks, he has scored a run. The A's trying to toggle back above that 500 mark. They get to 55 and 54. Get back to within 8.5 of the Rangers. Rammed in there, 1-2.
At 96 miles an hour. Just tough. A lot of arms and legs from Ogando.
Barton's got one of his 5 home runs this year against the Rangers. Earlier this year, he actually tied a game with a home run in the 11th. Or actually put him ahead in the 11th. The Rangers tied it bottom of 11. And Barton finally won it in the 13th with a hit.
Jack Cuss there, checking out his bat. Making sure it still has hits in it.
Hoping he gets a chance to use it. 2-2 the count to Barton. Remember, he was called out on a high-up strike back in the 4th.
Just checking here to make sure his bat's straight. It's not crooked. Now, usually right there, he's just looking to see if there are marks on the bat where he's made contact. Making sure there aren't any cracks in the handle.
Right here at 3-2 count to the always patient Derek Barton. He has seen 28 pitches today. Runners get going. Strike 3 taken. Barton thought he had the RBI walk. Instead, it's the end of the inning. Last chance for the Rangers when we return. Oakland A's on the mound will be Craig Breslow trying to bring this thing in and end it with a 6-1 final. The A's over the Rangers today on Fox. Vlad Guerrero, Nelson Cruz, and Jorge Cantu to face Breslow, the biochemistry major at Yale. That is to say, he doesn't really need this gig right here, but but he enjoys it. So, guy with a great slider. He pops the fastball in there pretty good, too. Gio Gonzalez went the first 7 today for Oakland, and he was great. Blevins pitched the 8th. Now it is Breslow for the 9th.
Breslow been very effective this year. A ton of appearances, 52. Opponents only hitting 184 against him.
He was actually called on for a save against these Rangers about a week and a half ago. You mentioned earlier Andrew Bailey is on the DL. Breslow came on to strike out Josh Hamilton and Nelson Cruz. Save a 3-1 game. Wave and a miss. He strikes out Guerrero. So the last 3 Rangers he's faced, Hamilton, Cruz, and Guerrero. And he struck out all of them.
Pretty good hitters right there, too, as well.
Nelson Cruz.
See, this just a high fastball, and Guerrero swings what looks like the ball's already by him before he starts his swing.
Now the aforementioned Cruz taking strike 1. I mentioned Bailey on the DL, Eric. 20 times this year the A's have had to use that disabled list. They have piecemealed things together. Been about a 500 team for really the last month or so.
Well, the thing is, you just want to get into the end of the season playing meaningful games. You don't want to just be running the schedule out, and the A's have put themselves in a position at this point right now. But they still got a shot.
Well, yeah, they got plenty of games still to go against these Rangers. They're going to face them 4 times here in September. And they'll make a trip to Arlington later this month. So, yeah, they've got 7 more shots at the Rangers head-to-head. Actually, 8, including the game tomorrow.
Well, again, tomorrow, a very big game for the A's. You can leave some doubt in the Rangers' mind. Cut another game off the lead. The A's just played well today. I mean, the pitching's been there. It hasn't been an offensive explosion, and you top it all off with a win today, and then head on in and see Steve Vucinich, a clubhouse man, for some of that smothered steak of his. Some of the best around.
A personal favorite for you?
Not so much my favorite, but just a specialty. It's something that he's really known for.
Three balls, no strikes to Cantu. Well, and the Rangers will head back across the bridge, have a night off in San Francisco, turn around and get ready for Mr. Cahill tomorrow. Outside, Cantu takes a stroll with 2 out.
Now batting, number 7, David Murphy.
Kevin Kuzminoff, ladies and gentlemen, carries his own Visine with him.
That saves the trainer from having to run out there.
A ball, no strikes to Murphy. He has 1 of the 5 Ranger hits this afternoon. Cantu goes, and no challenge here. Suzuki just lets him trot on in.
Well, good job right now by Suzuki just to go out, break up what's going on out there with Breslow. Give him a little breather. See a little movement in the Oakland A bullpen.
Trying to lock it up for Gonzalez, who's about to win his 10th of the year. Only Trevor Cahill has more than that, and again, he goes tomorrow at 11-4. And they're hoping not to call down for Michael Wirtz, but just in case. Only 1 out left to get. Murphy keeps it alive. Cantu coming around, and the Rangers slice it down to 6-2. Well, 2-out walk, and then that defensive indifference, just letting Cantu trot on into second base, actually gets the Rangers a run. Kurt Young will head on out, try to settle down Breslow.
Well, he's heading out right now, buying a little time for Michael Wirtz down in that bullpen. Got the bottom of the order up. Guzman and then Teagarden on deck. Bob Guerin looking for one more out just so Wirtz does not have to come in.
Now batting.
Well, Guzman trying to keep it alive, and don't lightly dismiss the guy on deck. Taylor Teagarden started the day hitting 100, but he's got 2 home runs here in the last 2 days. There's a strike to Guzman. And a weird game, Eric, in that hit right there by Murphy was the first by either team all day with a runner in scoring position. Guzman pops it up into the sunshine. Ellis backing on it, and in right field, it's Gross to grab it and end things today. A 6-2 final. Coco Crisp among the heroes. The A's take it, and we'll come back to Oakland after a word from your local Fox station.